Yeah. So when you buy Lucy, you're gonna pay for one property tax, which is called ISAI, which is the Impuesto sobre Adquisición de Inmuebles. When you buy, you're gonna pay for the closing costs, right? And they're usually like 5% of the total value of the property. So in those 5% includes the notary fees, because every transaction here in Mexico needs to be at a notaria, because we don't have an escrow like you guys have over there in the US. We have notarias, and they charge you a fee for helping you with the transaction, right?
Welcome to the Say Hola Well podcast, where we talk about how to make work optional, ditch burnout, and start going after your dream life. My name is Lucy King. I went from believing I have to work hard for money to now having multiple investment accounts and be on track to make work optional by 45. Inside my programs, Jefas and Wealth Mastermind and the Say Hola Wealth Academy, I help you reclaim your purpose and make work optional through entrepreneurship and stock market investing. Get ready to have your mindset decolonized and learn the simple money strategies to help you stop trading your income for your labor. Before I get started with the show, I want to remind you to follow us on social at Say Hola Wealth. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And if you are serious about making work optional, I want to invite you to subscribe to Cash Libre, our newsletter, where we send you money and mindset tips directly to your inbox on Thursday. When you are part of Cash Libre community, you get access to a special discounts on our programs and access to the Cash Libre quarterly office hours, where you can come and ask me anything. You don't even have to stay for the whole hour. You can just come in, get your question answered, and then go on with your day. With that being said, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to be here with you. How are you?
Doing great, Lucy. Thank you for the invite.
I'm excited to connect with you because, as you know, my goal is to help more busy mujeres, también los hombres, of course, become work optional. And one of the questions that keeps coming up right now is, okay, so I'm investing in the stock market, I'm investing maybe in real estate here in the US, but how do we actually buy property in Mexico? And so that's what we're going to talk about. But before we get there, tell me a little bit about you and your journey and how did you end up becoming a real estate agent?
Yeah, Lucy. So my name is Alex Cordova. I'm 26 years old. I have a degree on industrial engineering here in Mexico. I was born and raised here in Mexicali, Baja California, which, if you guys don't know, it's like 2 hours from Tijuana. And yeah, so I was studying in college, and I was back then. I'm big into sports. I like basketball. I like going to the gym, and I was a big fan of the sneaker culture. I was reselling sneakers back then when I was studying, and so that was my first contact with sales. And that was like my side hustle back then, because my parents didn't want me to have like a formal job, and but I wanted to make my own money to pay for my stuff. So I started reselling sneakers, like specifically like basketball shoes, and I started to like it. And I remember it was a time where I was doing pretty good, and I sold like more than 200 pairs in more than a year. And I was like, wow, like I'm making my own money, and I was paying for my school now. Like I was feeling great. And then I just wanted to, take that next step, continue to grow as a person. And I remember I was a big fan of Shark Tank, which is a TV show. Maybe you know that show. And I was a big fan of one of the investors over there. And I remember COVID hit, and I was taking my classes online. And I think everyone learned something from COVID. And I remember I bought a book from him that was called El Negociador. That was like a negotiation book, and I applied all of the concepts that I learned from that book and apply it in what I was doing back then. That was selling sneakers. And I remember they gave me a pretty big discount when I applied those concepts. And it just was like, wow, what I've been missing. I That was my first book that I bought for myself. And that was the moment that it started for me, to start buying more books. So I wanted to take that step. And so I took a course. I started to like it, and I took an exam to get a certificate, because here in Mexico it's not like in the US that you guys have like a license. I mean, here it's not regulated by the government. But I took a course, and I like it, and I start doing interviews with some real estate groups here in Mexico, and they didn't want me because I was when I graduated from college, it was like a tough decision to to pursue my career as an engineer or if I wanted to do sales, right? So I remember, I took some interviews, but I wanted to do sales. So I took a sales job, but it was like a 9 to 5. And to be honest, Lucy, I didn't like it that much. I wasn't passionate about what we're selling. We're selling like equipment or tools for the factories here in Mexicali. And I remember, I was there for a year. I learned a lot from my peers, but I wanted to do real estate too. I wanted to take that jump. And I remember I interviewing like two real estate groups, but they always say the same, like you're working too much hours in that job. You're working like 10 hours a day. I mean, you're not gonna invest time in real estate. So the guy that I'm working with right now, which is my mentor, his name is Carlos. He gave me an opportunity. He said, "Okay, Alex, you want to do this full time? Let's do this. Let's your first two commissions, and you quit your job." And we shake hands, and now I'm here. I'm doing it full time.
As this is how I found you. So for the chismosas that are listening or watching, I found him through TikTok. I have to bring him to the show, and I've always have good eye for the guests, by the way, that come in terms of like I'm always looking for those that are disrupting not only their personal journey, but also doing something that is completely unexpected. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to talk about the person who is already getting closer to retirement and she is looking, and I say she, but of course, somos inclusivos. We also help the caballeros. I always forget about you guys, but you know who you are. So they're getting ready to start, right? Like their financial freedom journey. They're getting ready to essentially do what I teach them, which is wow, now I have the money and the investments, and now I want to relocate and I'm going to be interviewing people from multiple locations in terms of the country or the city they want to move to. But for you specifically, because you are in Mexicali, what are some of the steps that people need to take, like the first step towards buying property in Mexico, and who can buy property in Mexico?
Yeah. So first of all, Lucy, I would recommend to get help from a real estate lawyer to check all the documents of the property that you want to buy. Also, get a real estate agent, someone that's going to help you find the right property for you. And it's also very important to check the property title, which is like the official deed or the escrituras in Spanish, to make sure that the person that you're dealing with is the real owner. And also make sure that the seller has paid all the services like water, electricity, predial, which is a like a property tax that we pay here every year. So make sure all of that has paid, and also understand the total cost of the transaction, because it's not only they always ask me like, Alex, how much I need to put for down payment, but they also need to take in consideration that you guys need to pay for closing costs, which is another 5% of the total price of the property. So all those are the first step that I would consider are important, right?
Okay, so far it's a little bit the same here in the US, but let's talk about the don'ts, right? Like here in the US, we always say, don't mess with your credit because you don't want to go buy la sala, la cama, and then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I need to buy the house. So
Yeah.
do you have any type of system like that in Mexico where I don't think Mexico has a credit entity or a credit score. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's why I brought you here so you can also educate me. But what are the first steps that people need to do? And then how does the down payment works? Like we can create like clients that are pretend, right? Like here in the US, it's typical a requirement to do like 20% of the total cost. How does that look like in Mexico?
Yeah, it's almost the same. I always, as usually, from 20 to 30% of the total price of the property as a down payment, because the banks here are not going to lend you 100% of the value of the property. So you need, because in the best case scenario, they're going to lend you like 90% of the value. So you need that 10% of down payment, or there are cases where they only lend you like 70 to 80%. So you need that 20 to 30% of down payment. Let's say an example, a house costs like $100,000, you need like $20,000 to $30,000 as a down payment.
Okay, that's great. Now, who can buy property in Mexico? Can a gringo go and say, I want to buy my casita in Mexico? Or who is like home ownership for in Mexico?
Yeah, yeah. Anyone can buy a property here, but when it comes to people that are not Mexicans, I mean, foreigners can only buy through a fideicomiso. A fideicomiso is the only way that you guys that are not Mexicans can buy a property here, and it's not that hard. It's simple. In this case, the bank is gonna appear as the legal owner of the property, but you're gonna have all the benefits like every homeowner here in Mexico has. So they charge you like a fee. The bank's gonna help you, but they're gonna charge you a fee of $500 or something like that. And you also need to request a permit from the SRE, which is the Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, which is like $1,000. So in total, it's gonna be like $1,500 to $2,000 to the fideicomiso. So the fideicomiso lasts 50 years, and once those 50 years pass, you need to renew it. But yeah, you can buy that way, and you can buy near from the beaches or near from the borders. So let's say if someone lives in Dallas, I don't know, in El Paso or Houston or Dallas, he can buy it in Chihuahua, which is the state that I'm bordered with. Or let's say someone from San Diego, I can buy it here in Mexicali, which because we're in border with, or in Tijuana. So yeah, there's a
I
lot of
love it.
options for.
And I say
Oh, yeah.
gringo, by the way, because I'm married to a gringo, and a lot of my
Okay.
listeners are married to gringos. So
Okay.
we can use those words. We can also say non-US citizen, non Mexican citizens, because
Yep.
like the listeners and the people that watch the show, they're Latinas, but they're also Latinas from everywhere, like Colombianas, Dominicanas, Puerto Ricanas,
Venezuela.
and most of us live in a house with a biracial partner, or like our kids are biracial, so we can say those words and we're not going to get in trouble.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you. You talk about the title and make sure that the house is legally owned. For people that don't know what that means, right? Because sometimes we see people on Instagram or TikTok and they're selling things that don't even belong to them. How can we actually say, "Ooh, that's a big red flag"?
So yeah, Lucy. I think one of the red flags that you guys need to check out are that sometimes the seller doesn't want to show you the official deed, which is the escritura. That's a very red flag because what is he hiding? He needs to show you that he's the real owner, and also check out that the dimensions or the address that the property that you're trying to buy is the same as the one that appear on the official deed. Also, I would say that you need to ask for a certificate of no liens, which in Spanish is a certificado de libertad de gravámenes. That
Can you
that
say
doc
that word again?
certificado de libertad de gravámenes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a document that it shows you if the property has any debts or problems. And yeah, that's basically a document that's very important in order to see if you have any that property that you want to buy, you have any trouble.
I love that. Now, I want to debunk some myths about Mexico too, because you live there. I have family that live there, specifically in Guanajuato, Guanajuato. But for us that don't live in Mexico, there's always these quote unquote red flag of it's not safe. From your perspective, as someone who lives and breathes and sells houses in Mexico, is that true?
I mean, there's some states that maybe they're not that safe, like Sinaloa. I mean, we know it's not very safe over there, but there's also some other states that are very safe. For example, Yucatan, which is a state here in Mexico. There's a city called Merida, which is trending right now because it's one of the safest city in the country. And I actually have a client right now that is selling his property with us here in Mexicali because he wanna move there. He want to move there and he want to retire with his wife. So I actually follow a lot of real estate agents, and I saw the other day a property that was in sale over there in Merida, and it was like it had a decent price, but what I was surprised it had a big pool, great finishes, and right there they have beaches, they have a lot of nature. So it just that's a city that comes to my mind that it's so safe. And there's also places that are more popular, like Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen. Those places are also that receive a lot of tourism and are safe. So yeah, there's a bunch of cities.
Hashtag goals. So I'm writing a book that is coming out next year, and
Awesome,
Tulum is part of my
congratulations.
book story. By the way, I have a story about that, so that's how I know you what you're
Okay.
talking about. I love that. Now, another thing that I want to ask you is we live in a country that is very abundant in terms of access to water, access to resources. And I do see, and again, this is me from an outsider perspective. I do see a lot of homes that are being built in Mexico, which I love, but also I hear the side of, well, you're not going to have water. Is that true, or is that just social media being social media?
I think that's a social media, just a rumor, because that's not gonna happen. Like, you're gonna have all your services here.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Now, what are some of the things that people should consider where buying a home in terms of the amenities, the location, like because you work with people that want to obviously buy a house in Mexicali, but do you work with clients virtually or how does that work?
No, I just work with people here local, but yeah, I have other agents that work in different parts of Mexico. So if some of your clients want to buy a property in another place that is not Mexicali, I can give you a contact of an agent that can help you.
Okay, I love that. The next question that I have is do you recommend buying a house as an individual or as a business? Over here is through an LLC. I think allá is
Persona moral o persona física.
okay, so see, I love this. We're learning. So what do you recommend and what are the pros and cons of both?
Yeah, so it's much easier to buy as an individual. I mean, majority of the people can buy it that way. But if you want to buy it as a company, or it's harder, it costs more. But at the end of the day, I mean, the company is going to be the owner, not you. So that's, I would say, one of the advantages of buying that way.
Okay, I love that. Now, if someone wants to get started, like let's say if their goal is to retire in 5, 6 years, when should they start looking for a house?
When?
Yes.
I mean, they can start looking now, but I mean, if they want to do it in the next 5 years, I mean, maybe the properties that are right now on the market are not going to be available in the next 5 years. I would say once you want to make the move, you should start, consider taking a look at different options.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question that everyone asks over here because it's
Okay.
like, when is the best time to buy a home in Mexico?
I mean, right now, because properties are also going up, same as the United States. Or the prices are going up, so the best moment is right now. Don't
And I
wait.
see so many houses there that I'm just drooling. I'm like, wow, those esas casas, they're like incredible. Now, can we talk about, and this might not be your expertise, but just a ballpark on how much, how does property taxes work over there?
Yeah. So when you buy, Lucy, you're gonna pay for one property tax, which is called ISAI, which is the Impuesto sobre Adquisición de Inmuebles. When you buy, you're gonna pay for the closing costs, right? And they're usually like 5% of the total value of the property. So in those 5% includes the notary fees, because every transaction here in Mexico needs to be at a notaria, because we don't have an escrow like you guys have over there in the US. We have notarias, and they charge you a fee for helping you with the transaction, right? You're also going to pay for the registration fees, because once you buy, the notary in this case is going to register the official deed at the public registry. So they're going to charge you some fees for that, and also the side, which is the tax that you're going to pay as a new homeowner. So yeah.
I'm like, you're giving me a master class right now, and I love that. Now, let's talk about the client or the listener who has dual citizenship. So she's a US,
Okay.
she's a born, but
Okay.
she became a Mexican citizen through dual citizenship that the current president just opened the doors for everyone, right? To do that. Not
Yeah.
everyone, you know what I mean? What are the actual documents that people need to have in regla? Look at me practicing my español. So people can come and say, Alex, I'm ready to buy a house, right? Because you go show the property, but they're literally ready to sit down and sign that contract with you.
Yeah. So they're gonna need their birth certificate. I mean, that they're Mexicans. They're also gonna need their if they're married, they're gonna need their marriage certificate. They also need their INE. I mean, which is the Mexican ID that we have here. And also, they're gonna take if you need a loan, they're gonna take in consideration your credit score. So it needs to be like 700 points or more in order for the banks to give you a credit. So those are basically the documents that you're gonna need.
Okay, can we talk about that? Like the credit score 700 or more? How does that, like, if I'm the one buying a house there, what kind of documents do you need? Do you need a credit report or did you need just a copy of a statement? Like, what is it that you guys will need?
Yeah, we need a copy of the score, and we also need how do I say it, like proof of income. Yeah, it could be your W-2 or your taxes. I mean, that can.
Okay. See, this is where I brought you because you're vested in like both worlds. And I mean, even the fact that you're able to translate the documents so fast, I'm like, oh my God, this is literally like a master class. Okay, perfect. Now, can you share with me like a client success story of someone that you help? It doesn't have to be someone, obviously, that being a US citizen moving to Mexico, but even the families that you help in Mexico, like what was their story and what inspired them to work with you and then purchase a home in Mexicali?
Yeah, so actually, I have a story that I have a house that I closed like 2 months ago. It was a recent, transaction. Someone reached out to me that they wanted to sell their property to buy a new one, and it was in a residential, in a private residential. It was a little house, but they wanted more space because they had two kids, and they want that house only have 2 bedrooms, so they needed 3 bedrooms, and they wanted to move to a better residential. So I sell their home in 2 days. Like literally, I posted, and the first 2 days, like the buyer came in, he wanted it. We helped them with their credit, and we already have their property under contract. So now we need to see properties for them because her property was under contract. So we were like shopping, Lucy. We were like visiting a lot of properties because it was so fast that I sold their property, and they were like, Alex, we need a home because we need to move in a couple of days. And during that process, that they're gonna do all the documents, and they need to move. So we visit a lot of properties. One of them really catch their eye, and they fall in love with one of them that I show them. And yeah, we make an offer. They accept them, and now we have two properties under contract: the one that we were selling and the one that they were buying. So they were like so stressed because they were like, hopefully, the times align, and once we sell the one that we're selling, we can buy the new one, right? So everything went right. We sell the property like 30 days later, and like 5 days later, we buy the one that they were trying to buy, and yeah, they were so happy. That was my one of my I would say one of my most memorable moments that I have with clients. I remember I planned a surprise for them. We were like, I put like balloons on the house. I bought them a TV, and we surprised them with their family. I contact all his family, his mom, his parents, brothers and sisters and everyone. And they were like, just like so thankful with me because, I'm not only, help them as a real estate agent. We really built a great relationship, not only for the business, but they always like me as a person, and I'm still in contact with them. And they invite me to a carne asada later because we
Yeah.
built such a great relationship that it, they were like, "You're just not like our real estate agent; you're also a friend of us." And they make me feel like part of their family, so it was pretty special.
I love that. And what a great way for you to build that relationship because maybe their cousin or la prima or somebody needs another home, right? When I purchased our home with my husband, our realtor didn't throw me a party or didn't give me balloons, but she did send me a beautiful basket of things that we really loved.
Awesome.
And now, because she knows that I have girls, my nenas are really small. We
Okay.
get invited to do a lot of kids activities for free, and so anytime I'm thinking about, oh, maybe I want to buy another home or somebody needs a home, I always drop her name because she
Uh-huh.
really takes care of us. Like she remembers us like probably 5 times a year, and so I'm always like, this is a good way to build relationships. And you're super young. I'm
Yeah.
40 plus. I'm 41.
Okay.
And so a lot of the younger generation also I'm seeing that with you guys that you understand the value of building relationships because that's going to bring you more business, and I love that.
Totally.
Alex, I'm going to bring it back to you. What is like one audacious goal that you have in terms of how many people do you want to help this year? How many houses do you want to sell? How much money does Alex want to make this year,
Yes.
by the way?
Okay. Yeah. So I always try to at least be closing one deal a month. But it's been 3 years since I've been in this business, so right now, if I close like 3 deals a month, that would be great. You know, to help 3 families a month, that would be awesome. Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to money, I mean, I also want to make a good amount. That's what we're here for. Also, to help our clients. But yeah, I would say
I
that.
love that. I love that. Now, I do have to ask you this because I am super chismosa.
Okay.
How do you speak English so well?
Do you think I speak well? I'm thinking a little bit nervous, but I'm trying my best.
No, you're doing great. Is that something that is required in college, or how did you learn English? Because I mean, you, especially for connecting the dots with real estate and the documentations and everything, is like you're spot on.
Okay, so yeah, I have clients that are gringos that sometimes I have. I had a couple showings a couple months ago, and they were impressed because most of the real estate agents here don't speak English. I think just watching series. I mean, I'm a big fan of sports. I always put the sports in English and movies and everything. So yeah, I think that's how I learned it because
Wow, I'm like good.
yep,
And you watch Shark Tank, so
yeah, I watch
you
Shark
love
Tank
Shark
too.
Tank. So
Yep.
this is fantastic. So chicos y chicas, I'm going to include the caballeros here on this show because I know there's someone that also wants to look into buying a property in Mexico. Reach out to Alex. The Instagram and TikTok links are going to be in the show notes, also on the YouTube channel. And Alex, how can people contact you? I'm telling them what I'm doing to promote your services, but how can
Okay.
people get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can send me a direct message on Instagram, or they can send me also a message on TikTok, which is the platforms that I use more. And yeah, just maybe if they want to buy a property here or if they want to sell, I mean, I'm here to help them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show, and let's go ahead and build wealth juntos.
Nice.
On the Say Hola Well podcast and its associated entities, all content provided is for general informational purposes only. This information is not intended as legal, accounting, tax, or other professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek guidance from qualified professionals such as accountants, financial planners, or attorneys before making decisions based on the content shared. We assume no responsibility for errors, omissions, or misinterpretation in the podcast of its associated materials. Additionally, we disclaim all liabilities from any defamatory, offensive, or inappropriate content shared by guests or contributors. By accessing this podcast and its related content, you acknowledge the terms of this disclaimer.